to the ashes. The spirits light up the night, looking down the edge of forever. So stop me to take my advice. Hello, everybody. Alex is here too.
Hey.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
You're so dependable. I know you're going to be there. Just know it. Anyhow, so how's your day going on this cold, windy fall?
We just keep getting teased with summer.
Yeah, it's like fall weather. It's fall weather.
It is.
Feels like fall. It's cloudy, windy, cold, gloomy.
Gross.
Yeah, and everything's brown and
depressing.
It really is. Anyhow, it's coming. The May is coming.
I hope
it'll get
so.
nice. It'll get nice. So, thanks to you and Brother Blaine, you guys got the Legend Science fun Kickstarter launch.
Yeah. Excited to share that. Hopefully tonight.
Well, yeah, you can share it, but we don't want to play the whole. Just a couple of seconds.
Okay.
We're going to play the video.
Yeah. Do you want me to play it now?
Well, in a second or so.
Okay.
So anyhow, we have a 27-day window, all or nothing. So if you don't meet goal, you don't get anything. Everybody gets a refund, correct?
Yes.
And we only have 27 days left.
Correct.
And so anyhow, this, I mean, to try to emphasize why you'd want to fund this is far more than just an entertainment film.
Yeah.
We are going to be using the film to share the results and the process of a whole bunch of forensics, lots of them, covering everything from infrasound to DNA. The skin oil content. I can go on and on. I mean, the list is like 24 things. So,
and these tests aren't cheap, are they?
No, nothing's cheap. Nothing's free. No one's working for free. Trust me. Not on the Bigfoot topic. Now, if we get good results, it's going to raise the bar enough, then scientists probably will be willing to work on it for free.
And they take it more seriously.
So like for the DNA, we're going to take the data that drops to the bottom, human-like. They're going to go all the way. They're going to take care of the entire sequence. Plus, the databases are huge nowadays compared to what they were.
What it was.
So we may be able to find the origins of this thing, all sorts of really cool answers. It may change the topic as much as the whole UAP topic. For instance, today there was a public hearing. First public hearing today with members of Congress and the public on the UAP problem. That's how much of that topic has been raised. No, it's not solved yet.
But people are taking it a lot more serious.
It's being taken serious. That's the goal of this documentary. That's my goal. It's been my goal. And I've been working on this ever since Monster Quest ended.
So how long? About 30 years you've been invested?
Well, I know, but this particular Legend Science too, I've been working on this since probably 2009, 2010. There's a lot that's gone into this.
Yeah.
Plus Jeff Meldrum, I even had a great conversation with him today. Too long of a one when me and Jeff get on the phone. It seems like we never get off. But he's writing the new book to go along with the doc. And of course, he can't release it until we get the results of many things. But anyhow, so if you want to contribute to this, you're contributing. It's not just a film to entertain you. You're really contributing to the whole science of Bigfoot. So,
absolutely.
So if we fail at this, then, I don't know what we'll do at that point. There's a ton of work just to get this thing launched. And you're going to put the link in the, show description?
Yeah. Yep.
I love it when your camera froze. I always freezes with your eyes closed.
Never with them open.
Maybe it'll freeze when you're smiling once in a while. Okay, so we've got a great guest, and we're going to have two guests. One of them got just called in, Jeff Stewart, got called in, and he's a police reservist, and he got caught by surprise. So he can't join us. We'll rebook Jeff. Michael Mays is going to be with us. Michael's amazing. He's a Texas big thicket expert. He researches black panthers. He is the chairman of the Wood Ape Conservancy. He's obviously very familiar with Area X, and I can go on and on. I mean, this guy's amazing. He's just really probably one of the coolest guys you could ever listen to. Really,
Yeah,
I was so impressed. And I've never met Michael.
You've never met him?
No, I've never met him. No.
So this will be exciting.
So this will be live. I'm meeting him in front of everybody. Yep. So I just got a really dumb. Do you ever get stupid, like dumb emails? You go, what in the world did they even waste their time writing this? So I just get one because I live near a golf course, reminding residents to don't walk on the golf course during golf season. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's where everybody should go jogging and walking so you can get hit by a 200-mile-per-hour golf ball. It's just it's like, really, do you have to really tell people? There's signs all over, that state that.
Yeah, you're just asking for it.
Kind of insulting, I guess. It's like someone telling you, don't let your kids play in the middle of the freeway. You know what I mean? It's like,
those signs always come from someone doing it, though. There's a person behind every sign.
I know, but sending an email out isn't going to help that person because they probably aren't reading emails.
No, they probably don't know how to read.
So there you go. All right. So there was something really interesting that happened in Alaska, very similar to what happened in Norway, the Norway spiral. Remember that? The
Norway spiral.
Yeah, the Norway spiral.
Well,
you can put up photo one.
Photo one.
Because this is the Alaskan spiral now. Don't add it.
Photo one, Alaskan spiral.
See it? Well, I didn't call it I just called it photo one. There you go. So, so people are confused as to what this is. Obviously, the government says, well, it's a wayward rocket. And I'm thinking, if that's a wayward rocket, it's going to it's spiraling out of control. If you have a rocket doing this, we're all in deep doo-doo. I mean, it's like, come on, people. I know. I mean, I'll buy into all sorts of swamp gas explanations, but I'm not buying into a wayward rocket. And then some scientists were going, oh, they were just letting go of their fuel. They had too much fuel. Well, it doesn't do this then. It's a trail, just like a contrail. It's straight.
Yeah.
It's not doing this.
No.
Yeah, I could see this if the rocket's out of control. Well, then where's the rocket? You would have seen the rocket making it. So, not buying it. Not buying it. So, what's the date today, Alex? 19th?
The 19th.
19th. So, a few days ago, there was another article from another Pentagon official saying that UFO and aliens maybe coming out of a mothership parked in our solar system somewhere. So a Pentagon official who heads up a secretive unit studying unidentified flying objects said that all these ships could be coming actually from an alien mothership and their probes. But I'm like, why do you have to tell us this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if you ask them, they just kind of get all deny. Like today in this public hearing, I saw some of it. They didn't really offer anything new, They
didn't offer anything.
It's like, well, we don't have any evidence of it. Well, then why are you pumping out public articles about it? I don't know. It just seems really weird to me.
It is weird.
Before a UFO could land on, the White House lawn and they wouldn't say anything about it. Now suddenly they're just like going the other direction.
They're going way in the other
putting
direction.
articles out that aren't backed up by anything.
It's weird.
So obviously, yes, Avi Loeb, he talked about the Oumuamua, that was spotted, and that apparently did some weird things. The Oumuamua, which they thought was an asteroid, but it was like really long, and it apparently did some moves that, it just didn't act like an asteroid, which I totally buy into it. But then they released a photo, an artist's rendering of Oumuamua that was like a big long rock.
It was like a big long rock.
And actually, I think, yeah, it's a big long like rectangular rock, huge. And that came through our galaxy in 2017. Anyhow, just the whole thing is just kind of smacking of really weirdness. Yeah. Everything is just weird right now.
It is weird.
So, and then with all these shoot downs, they didn't disclose what they shot down, did they now?
They did not disclose it.
No. So if they're just balloons or just whatever, and they had these big operations and they shot them down over the ocean so they could recover them, which made zero sense. I mean, if I want to recover something, I'm going to shoot it over a farmer field. I'm not shooting it so it sinks to the bottom of the damn ocean.
No.
And destroys all the electronics. The whole thing just smacks of like, what in the world? And then what is going on with Germany? They just shut down all of their nuclear plants. All of them.
That's crazy. That's a lot of power.
Why? And I just don't buy into the reason they're giving once again. You don't push electric cars, make laws that say, everybody has to be electric by, 2030 or even earlier for Europe, and then shut down all your power plants.
Where are they going to get that power?
Exactly. So there was an article in the newspaper. It said Germany shuts down all of its nuclear plants, but it's warned that they will regret it. Well, of course they're going to regret it. It says Germany became only the third European country to shut off its nuclear power supply. And I'm thinking, okay. Only the third.
Only.
Hold on here. There we go. And it says, when their final 3 reactors were severed from the grid for good. I love that too. Just for good. We don't need them. So the end of German nuclear energy, a process that had begun by former Chancellor Angela Merkel after the Fukushima disaster in 2011. Well, that was caused by a tsunami. They don't have tsunamis in Germany.
They don't have tsunamis.
So it's like, I get it. If you were like down the coast from Fukushima, they should have never built that there. They should have been built inland, and they should have like piped water from a much farther distance.
Yeah, they got a little complacent.
I mean, your sister could have come up with that plan to keep that power plant safe,
Don't put power plants near tsunamis.
No, right, exactly. In a tsunami, and if you need all that seawater to keep, for your reactors getting cool, well, pump it in from miles. I mean, it's water. It's very safe to pump water.
Yeah.
Last I heard.
Yeah.
It is very safe to pump water to cool a nuclear power plant.
That's probably fine.
Because
someone wanted to save money on pipe.
Yeah, it's hot water, goes in cold, comes out warm. But it's not nuclear, it's not radioactive.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Anyhow, so I just find it interesting. So it says the end of German nuclear energy, a process begun by Angela Merkel. It says she started in 2011, decommissioning these power plants. It says it came at the same time as the country seeks to wean itself off fossil fuels. So it's just like completely opposite. I swear I woke up in another dimension.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that? Like nothing makes sense.
Every day.
I don't know. Is it because they're just lying so bad and they're coming up with such dumb lies? Is that why everything feels so bizarre, that their lies aren't even good, or they have an alternative motive? I mean, there could be a serious motive as to why they did it, but we're just not aware of it.
We just don't know.
But then why lie about it? I don't know. Okay, I like this one too. Another article that's really, once again, really weird. Super weird. It says a past.
By the way, don't read our chat.
Why? Is it bad? Are they
No. It's funny.
Okay, I'll read it. I'll catch up.
Yeah.
I gotta read this. Okay, so it says a past runaway fireball could be an alien probe that crashed off Papua New Guinea.
Off of Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, so it says, once again, a Harvard scientist says a runaway fireball that crashed into the waters off the coast of Papua New Guinea in 2014 could be an alien probe or an extraterrestrial artifact, similar to the U.S. interstellar probes like NASA's Voyager. Okay. Once again, this comes from Avi Loeb, who I love to get on the show. We have to get him on one of these days. Told Fox News Digital. So apparently this craft put out, it says the space object crashed into the Bismarck Sea with a percentage of energy force of a Hiroshima bomb in 2014, and likely traveled from the deep interior of a planetary system or a star in the thick disk of the Milky Way galaxy, Loeb says. It was originally classified as a meteor, but the object's speed and trajectory were outliers that suggested it wasn't beholden to the sun's orbit. I think what they mean is it was going way too quick. It was going past terminal velocity or whatever. So I just found that interesting. And now let's see here. Let's see. I'm gonna get a drink of my purple stuff. I've been on the phone the whole day today.
Oh, I can only imagine.
I like the whole day from the moment I got up till this podcast.
And now you're going to do another 2 hours.
Yeah, well, it's all right. So it says a bizarre object 10 million times brighter than the sun. Try to comprehend that. A bizarre object 10 million times as bright as the sun is now defying physics, NASA says. So this amount of energy, and so apparently they saw this object out in the Milky Way. Or maybe in a different galaxy. But it says it breaks the physical law known as the Eddington limit. Have you ever heard of the Eddington limit?
No, what is the Eddington? What's the limit?
Okay, yeah, say that again. Okay, the Eddington limit determines how bright something of a given size can be. So an object like a size of a water bottle can only get so bright. So the bigger it is, the brighter apparently it can get. This object is 10 million times brighter than the sun. Like, holy moly.
That's bright.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was twice as bright as the sun, that would freak me out, let alone 10 million. I don't think people are really, comprehending what I'm saying.
My mind is blown.
No, 10 million. You can't even comprehend it. Nobody can. I can't either.
I can't.
Okay, so it says apparently if something breaks the Eddington limit, scientists do expect it to blow itself up into pieces.
They're going to blow it to pieces?
No. If you break the Eddington limit on brightness, it just blows up. That's why they call it the limit. Can't get any brighter. It blows up.
It decimates the limit.
No. It decimates itself.
It self-decimates.
Yeah, it's something like that.
You're just like, whatever, shut up.
I didn't say that. However, ULXs regularly exceed this limit by 100 to 500 times, leaving scientists puzzled. Well, then why do they have a limit if it doesn't work? It said the rest, I wrote down the rest of the article is a complete waste of time, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I wrote that down. I'm saying the unsaid. It was a terrible article. I was like, okay.
Sounds like they haven't figured it out yet.
You know, you could spend an hour reading an article twice and you go, what?
It's
Doesn't
just
make any sense.
garbage.
Yeah, it's garbage. So, and then there was another breakthrough concerning light. Apparently, there's a breakthrough by a bunch of researchers that suggests gravity can create light.
Gravity can create light.
Yeah, gravity can create light.
Now,
what the hell do they have to? What do they have to do with each other?
Can light create gravity?
So apparently, when you drop something on your toe, it lights up.
Oh, it does light up in my brain.
Yeah, I know. Anyhow, a group of researchers have made a shocking discovery, right, about one of the most fundamental forces in our universe. According to a new scientific paper, which is set to publish in the Physics of Dark Universe next month, gravity may have created light in the earliest days of the universe. So they're saying that gravity maybe created light. It didn't exist without gravity. According to the new paper, early gravitational waves may have been so strong that they created radiation because they shook space and time so hard. Kind of like getting bonked in the head by a golf ball.
Getting bonked.
It's an intriguing discovery that rethinks what we know about gravity, which is zero. We know nothing about gravity.
Yeah.
So I read this crap and I go, we don't know anything about gravity.
Except don't
so
jump
what we
off
know,
a building.
They haven't learned anything since the guy dropped a couple of weights off the tower and watched him hit the ground. We haven't learned anything since.
Yeah. Yeah, except,
what?
Don't do that.
What?
Don't jump off of the tower.
Oh my God, you're killing me. Anyhow, so there we go. And then they captured it completely on the other end of the spectrum. They captured a big alligator in California.
How big are we talking?
7 foot.
That's huge.
Well, it's pretty good size. It's enough to chomp you in the, you know what?
That's enough for a sci-fi original movie.
Yeah. So the 7-foot alligator reportedly found in the American River in California. It's puzzled California officials. So fishermen apparently spotted it, reported it to a friend, and this was found in the Fair Oaks suburb of Sacramento.
The Fair Oaks suburb.
And then the friend captured the dang gator, securing its mouth with duct tape, and turned it over to the Wildlife Care Association. According to the TV station KXTV. There we go. And of course, they didn't have any facilities for caring for an alligator because alligators don't exist in California.
Of course they don't.
So there you go. And then they, of all this time, they've discovered a new mineral group. Now, once again, that doesn't mean anything to me. And I'm like frustrated because what the hell is a mineral group? Did you learn anything about mineral groups?
No, I didn't know there were
minerals.
I didn't know there were groups of them.
Yeah, apparently there's groups. So apparently, fossilized lightning. You ever heard of this?
Lightning?
Fossilized lightning.
Fossilized lightning? No, that sounds like.
Well, it's when lightning hits the ground, it'll like turn the ground, melt the ground.
Okay. So there's like fossils of it, of like lightning strikes?
Yeah. Yes. Best I can understand. So
they're studying these now?
Yeah, they studied it. And apparently it's a new type of a mineral. So a group of Florida neighbors are trying to cash in on a lightning strike that may have inadvertently found a new type of mineral group. So apparently the bolt struck a tree in their Newport Richie neighborhood, and it fried the roots of and left a fulgurite. That's the thing that melts it's the fossilized lightning. It's called the fulgurite.
Fulgurite.
Yeah.
It's called glass.
You do not want one in your butt.
You do not want it in your butt.
You don't want to get hit in the butt and end up with a fulgurite in your butt. No.
Do not want fulgurite butt.
I remember I saw lightning once hit my lake, and it created literally, it set the water on fire. I've never seen anything like that. It was crazy. Me and AJ saw it, and there was like a fire tornado that came out of the water when lightning struck it. And I thought that may have been the hydrogen that was created from the lightning strike.
The hydrogen.
Combusted. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyhow, and apparently it said the bolt struck a tree in Newport Richie neighborhood, fried its roots, and left a fulgurite, fossilized lightning. Okay. I got to move this because I can't read it all. It said apparently, and they assumed it could be valuable. They were right. After more than a decade of study, geoscientist Matthew Pasek of the University of South Florida has concluded the rock he bought for only $150 may represent a new phosphorus material. So there you go.
That's cool.
Does not occur naturally on Earth. Apparently they can find this stuff on meteorites and space stuff, junk.
Stuff and junk.
Yeah. Yep. Anyhow, there you go. What do you think? Totally bored, right?
No, I'm just.
Are people bored in the comments?
No, it's just so much to take in.
Okay.
I'm just excited to have Michael on. He's in the back room.
Oh, yes. Okay, what time is it? Oh, geez, it's getting late.
Yeah, I know.
I've been ranting forever. All right, just do one thing. Throw up photo 2.
Photo 2?
Yeah. Okay. I love this. This has made me laugh literally till I cried. So they made a big article about this AI enhanced. So the black hole on the left apparently is untouched. And artificial intelligence did this amazing enhancement on the right. And I went, oh my. You're kidding me. That required an article. Okay.
It's incredible. The detail.
Isn't that incredible enhancement? I can see so much more detail now.
It's clearly a circle, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
We didn't know it with the first one.
Do you want to skip my clips?
I mean, I'm just excited to get Michael on.
Well, I am too.
It's just up to you. Whatever you want to do, we can make.
We'll just whiz through them really quick, and we'll be done. And we can probably be done in 3 minutes.
All right, let's blast through.
Go right to it. Blast. Clip 1. That's a nice share screen you got going on. Oh my God, you got busted.
Never on the wizard.
Clip 1.
Okay.
So this frog does not like to be touched. It's hilarious. The sound is good. I did not research what kind of frog this is. The monkeys are being gentle. Doesn't like being touched. Look how curious they are, though. You know, of other wildlife. It's to me, that's the fascinating part. All right, clip 2. You're totally like no comment. You didn't have any comment.
I was speechless. It was so cute.
You were speechless. Yeah, it doesn't take much.
That's either a plane crashing. No, that's a freaking meteor.
I didn't even talk about what you're going to show.
What are we seeing here?
Oh my God. Okay, so this once again, it's debatable what it is because it's kind of traveling upwards. That's kind of an interesting tell.
It's crystallish.
Well, it's traveling upwards.
So
that's always a problem. And it's breaking apart.
That is
So
a
could it be a meteor?
freaking insane
Seems it's-
meteor.
So the speed is wrong. I mean, everything's just wrong about it.
Oh my gosh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have
That is
no idea what to
beautiful.
think of this.
Now it starts coming down. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I see stuff like this. It's definitely a good catch.
It's definitely bizarre.
It's a good catch. But I did find the speed a little puzzling. You know, the speed was. Oh, you're just going to play him without me even talking about it, right?
What
Jesus. What
just happened?
That's a close call, isn't it? Is that a big rock or a piece of styrofoam is what I want.
It looks a piece of styrofoam.
It actually looks like that.
I
doesn't
say
it?
so fake that I mean it looks bad.
Or it could be a big piece of rock. I mean, they are in the mountainous area. It could be a big piece of flat rock.
They're fine though.
So you decide. If that's a true rock and that guy just barely got missed by that, that's like the close call of the century, right?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't his day. The next one is a slug getting a bath. Do not use the sound, but the slug's face is fascinating. He actually looks like he's really enjoying this. It's a little warm shower he's taking. Play it one more time. He's got a cute puppy face. Closes his eyes. He's doing just what I do. Taking it in the shower.
That's what I look like in the shower too.
Yeah, minus the antennas.
Uh
Okay, this is interesting. This one actually really even surprised me.
Happens when
If you
put
take a
four
turntable-
on a turntable and then start spinning the turntable.
Thanks, Alex.
Intuitively, you might expect
Just play it.
well, no, you narrate it. Screw him.
Well, no. The object, okay, you put a ball, a round ball, or any ball, doesn't matter what size, how heavy, it will stay on that turntable for a long time, even if you turn the RPMs up. But if you put like a penny or anything else on there, keep it playing, it'll just shoot right off as soon as it gets up to RPM. And that white line is just like tape, so you can see it spinning. That's all that's for. So you put any object on there, and it just flies right off right away. But you put a ball on there, and it goes into what the heck did he put on there?
Well, he didn't do it right.
Oh no,
There, see, he's working his magic.
he's working his magic. But it'll actually go into like a little orbit, which is
cool.
interesting, kind of like our planets. And he talks about this. Gives it just a tiniest nudge, and now it's actually going into a suborbit. I've got some turntables. I'm going to play around with this. It's fascinating to me. I'm probably the only one that finds it fascinating, but it's damn fascinating to me. Not to Alex.
No, I love it. Look at it go.
Yeah, you won't be able to sleep tonight.
Oh.
Okay, clip 6. Glass
I love physics.
Glass frog science. This is interesting to me because this is like a transparent frog. You don't need to play the sound. I'll tell it. But the actual frog can control where it can hide its blood into its liver. So it becomes less visible and more camouflaged. So it can do really cool things with its blood.
That's so weird.
Yeah. See how his blood, he'll actually like go into a stupor where he's almost like hibernating, but he can do it like at will, like just during the day. He wants to get camouflage. He shuts his heart off, shuts his blood from pumping. All the blood hides in the liver, maybe in its little tiny pea brain. Anyhow, that's it.
Cool.
We can't do that. I just put this up because I thought it was so cute. It's a little porcupine. How can a porcupine be cute with that nose? With his hands? I guess I never really thought about it that porcupines have hands.
Yeah, he's got it. I mean, look at him.
Yeah, he's holding it. Cute.
Is that
So clip 8, we need the sound. This is really actually quite interesting because, I was involved in racing for quite a long time, but they're getting just insane. So this, just hang on. Jeez. This top fuel dragster goes from 0 to 335 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds on land using traction, tires, rubber. That is just mind-blowing. Think about that. And before you play the clip, these things, they cost $500,000. They put out 10,000 horsepower. It uses 15 gallons on this little short quarter-mile ride. And the stuff costs $15 a gallon. It's called nitromethane.
Mm.
And I used to sponsor a top fuel like this, a nitromethane funny car. And that was not cheap to sponsor this car. But it was just fascinating to, be behind the scenes. And they have to rebuild these engines after each run.
Wow.
They got to replace the piston and the rings, sometimes even the crank. After each quarter-mile run, they got to rebuild the whole engine. It's crazy. So anyhow, now play it, knowing that information. This thing goes from 0 to 335 miles an hour in 3 seconds. But can you put the volume up, or is that all the way? And it's, put it up. No, put the volume up. It won't go up, will it? You don't know.
It's broken. You go up to grab it, and it disappears.
And it disappears. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's what.
Some
So
genius
it's fun to go. If
programming.
you haven't ever gone to a drag race, I do suggest it because it's actually quite amazing to feel 10,000 horsepower, that and that kind of sound and vibration, and it's a thrilling experience. So here, our next clip that Alex is so kind to run through is obviously a bird trying to break an egg, but it's a golf ball, and it's hilarious to watch. It's very excited to eat this egg, and it does its thing and blams it again, and of course, golf ball comes down and slams it again. I'm sure it'll just keep trying.
I mean, he thinks,
or it's having fun. I could be wrong. It could be just playing golf.
Yeah, maybe he's playing with his balls.
It could be. He could be. Okay, so don't play 10 yet. So I used to go to the Raptor Center. I used to do stories on the Raptor Center. Right? You know what that is? Raptor, eagles, vultures, hawks. Anyhow, there would be all these injuries all the time, broken ribs, broken wings. And I always wondered, how would something with such great eyesight get hurt all the time? This might explain it. Literally pure greed, or they catch something that's too heavy. They're hungry. They catch a rabbit and it's too heavy to get up to altitude. They miscalculate their speed because the animal that they're carrying is too heavy. So I find that very interesting. You can play clip 10. This could explain all the raptor injuries that I've seen. You see what I mean? Yeah. Obviously, it meant to fly over the top of the roof, but it miscalculated. And of course, birds have brakes. They can flip their wings around and slow down, but not in that short of a run. So maybe that explains all these injuries.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. I mean, they take raptors in like every day with injuries like that. Wow. That would be consistent with what that bird sustained.
What happens?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's introduce Michael. And I've got a little bio on Michael here. Let me get a drink of my our purple sponsor. No, should be. It's warm. I should have grabbed a cold one. So Michael Mays, he is the chairman of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. He is also, hold on here, I'm going to open this up. He's an author, a researcher, and a blogger. And I think he's all around a pure brilliant guy, you know. He's appeared on Annie's network program, The Low Files, with Rob Lowe and Rob Lowe's son. He was born in the piney woods of East Texas, which our other guest that got called into the reserves was also born. Would have been fun having them both on.
Yeah.
I wonder if they even know each other. We'll ask Michael.
They do.
They do know each other.
Yeah. Jeff was in one of Michael's books.
Do they like each other?
I got a smile. Yeah.
Okay. As an adult, Michael had endeavored to get to the bottom of some of these mysteries. He currently serves as a chairman of board, again, of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy and Area X. And we're going to talk about that. He also researches black panthers. So we're going to talk about that too.
Nice.
And no doubt he's an expert of the Big Thicket area, you know. Mm-hmm. So without further, and he also authored a kid's book called Patty. Michael.
Hi guys, how are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So let's talk about Black Panthers first.
Okay.
Dig right in.
Get right into it.
What do you think they are? What in the world do you think they are?
Well, I think the visuals can be explained by multiple candidates. I think the animal that best fits the description we typically get, which is a cat anywhere from 80 to 120 pounds, long tail. I think that sounds a lot to me like a melanistic jaguar, and the reason I lean that way is jags they were once native to not only Texas but the American South. They were common. They were one of the big predators going all the way back to the last ice age, and they do carry the genetics for melanism. Some of these witnesses will describe that the cat they saw, while it was black, when the light hit it just right, you could see the rosettes, you could see spots.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. And
so you've had people spot the rosettes.
Yes, sir. I
have.
Okay. Now, not all by any means, but I think that's the most. I think that is the most convenient, the most logical. I'm a big Occam's razor guy, you know.
Yeah.
And, this was a cat that was native to the area, to the region. It fits the descriptions of size. It, the behaviors, everything. You know, I think a lot of those are just maybe jags returning to their native range. The problem with that idea is that all that's ever seemed to be reported are black individuals. If it were jaguars that were solely responsible, you would think that at least from time to time there would be reports of the typically spotted, gold colored cat with the rosettes and spots, and that doesn't happen. That hasn't happened very much at all.
Well, why do you think that would be? Why would people not see the golden colored jags?
Well, it's a good question. The one thing that plays into it in my mind is that the trait of melanism, which is just it's a mutation. In jaguars, that mutation will be dominant. It will, if a black individual mates with a typically colored spotted cat, that mutation is dominant, and so the offspring, will be black. Leopards, which can be melanistic also, but that's a recessive trait, so you see it far less in leopards. And of course, they're Asiatic cats, but with it being a dominant, genetic mutation, if these guys were up north, got cut off from the larger breeding population in say, central southern Mexico down into Central America, if they got kind of isolated and they had a couple of melanistic individuals in the population as time went on, that mutation is going to take hold, and pretty much all those cats are going to be black by the time they're done.
So do you do you think too there could be what would I say? Another trait in a black leopard that would make them more adaptable to the more northern regions. Like, in other words, they like it a little cooler, like in Texas, because of their black fur. And because I mean, these reports come all the way to Minnesota.
Mhm.
These black.
Oh, even farther north than that.
Yeah.
In the book, I document a case from Canada. There was actually a research effort they were trying to find out if mountain lions had returned to this area of Canada. It was in Guelph, Ontario, in that general area. And a trail cam got a picture of a solid black, large cat of some kind. What was interesting was how matter of fact they were about it in the study. And there's a picture in the book of this. It just says melanistic jaguar, Guelph, Ontario. And that's all it says. They don't say anything else about it because the study was trying to find mountain lions. And so here you find this jaguar, this melanistic cat, all the way up in Canada. And I understand that your mission was one thing, but you would think that would have sparked someone's curiosity to try to follow up on that.
But do you think is there a possibility that the black color they would be better adapted because they would overheat and wouldn't you think a black, because when I wear a black shirt, I don't wear a black shirt when I go outside.
Well, that's why I don't have a black vehicle down here in Texas in the summer.
Exactly.
It's
They
awful.
absorb so much heat. So is that a possibility?
It's possible. The typical scientific line or belief when it comes to any kind of mutation is that as long as it's not deleterious to the species, in other words, if it doesn't somehow hurt the chances of that individual, that species surviving, then that mutation is allowed to remain.
Okay.
So this is why, leopards, again, they're African and Asian cats, but they do carry the genetics for melanism, but it is recessive. So you see many more black leopards in Asia, in Southeast Asia in particular, than you do on the savannas of Africa. And the reason being, they would stick out like a sore thumb in that yellowish grass on the Serengeti, for example. And so that mutation would hurt that species in that situation. So it's not going to last.
So black is more camouflaged.
Well, it depends on where you are.
In
the jungles of Southeast Asia, then if that mutation, it may or may not help the species, but at the very least, it doesn't hurt the species' chances. And so nature will allow that mutation to hang around. If you think about it, it's kind of like these rabbits up north, these Arctic hares that if they turn white too soon before the snows come, they're dead meat. It's over. That mutation is going to it's going to be taken care of. So it has to be something that if it's not advantageous, at the very least doesn't cause the species more difficulty in surviving. That's the only way Mother Nature is going to let that trait hang around. So at least from what I've gathered here in North America, whatever these things are, they're black, and it appears not to cause them any harm. Doesn't seem to be causing them to, certainly they're not going away. People are still seeing them. So it's at the very least not hurting their chances of survival. So staying around.
How many reports do you get a year?
Oh, it varies. When I first started doing the blog, the whole genesis of the book, it was really an offshoot of the blog. I'm chairman of basically a Bigfoot research group, as you guys know, but my interests are wide and varied. And I've started a blog just to talk about other things because I do have other interests. And one day I came across a newspaper report from the Dallas Morning News about a black panther that someone had seen outside of Plano, Texas, which is just northeast of Dallas, an unlikely sounding place for such an animal. But I published a story on it, on the blog, did a little post on it, and the inbox just blew up with people who said they had seen one and wanting to talk about it. And each time I did a blog post about it, the same thing would happen. A lot of the reports were somewhat historical in nature. Maybe it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. They just had never had anyone to talk to about it. So for a couple of years, it was fast and furious. They were really pouring in. But I get at least a couple a month, even now. That's slowed down now because a lot of the people who had older stories that they've shared them now. And so they've been cataloged and they're in the database. And a lot of them are in my first book, which was on the Black Panther phenomenon.
It seemed like when I was doing research in Louisiana and Texas and Georgia and on down south, every single rural family I talked to had big black leopard reports.
Yeah, you and I grew up in East Texas, and it's a little embarrassing, but I was well into my 30s before I realized that, according to science, there is no such animal as a black panther. There are jaguars that have melanism. There are leopards which display melanism, but they're still just jaguars and leopards. There's no separate species of, called a black panther. And when I was growing up, it was just thought of, it wasn't a common animal by any means, but it wasn't so uncommon that it raised a lot of eyebrows either when someone talked about it. And you couldn't, if you got in a room full of 20 people in East Texas, you can't throw a rock without hitting somebody that's either seen one or knows someone who's seen one.
I know, it's crazy.
And these people who would kind of maybe roll their eyes about a Bigfoot sighting, when you tell them, well, what you're saying you saw, you're in the same boat with those Sasquatch witnesses, because these things are not supposed to exist. And then, boy, they'll fight you. You're not going to impugn their eyes. Sounds old. They sound a lot like, I know what I saw. You can't tell me what I saw. The same stuff you hear from reputed Sasquatch witnesses. So
well, they're just now confirming jaguars living in Arizona, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what's interesting though is that they're the spotted coats. The photos they've gotten, we haven't seen a black one on any of their trail cams yet out there. So I'm really, really hoping that happens soon.
Is there a way to bait a camera with some, raw beef or something to try to attract a big cat in Texas?
I'm sure there is. I've read all of Jim Corbett's book, Tiger Hunter, over in India back in the day. There's all kinds of things. The problem in Texas where I am is it's almost all privately owned. There's not a lot of public land. There are some, there are national forests and national preserves and things around. Those, of course, have strict regulations on what you can and can't do, and everything else is, it's public land. Private land. So that creates some problems. And really, the way to hunt a cat is like these guys that hunt mountain lions out west. It's with dogs. And you get on a horse and you follow those dogs until they bay that cat, and that's how you catch them. And that's happened in Arizona. Guys were out hunting mountain lions, and these dogs latched onto a scent, and they treated this cat, but it turns out to be a jag instead of a cougar. And so they got these photos, and since then they've gotten trail cam photos and such. But you just can't ride all over the place. East Texas it's full of barbed wire and property lines, and somebody may have 20 acres, 30 acres, 100 acres even, but that cat's not going to stay put. And, before you know it, you're going to have to cross into someone else's property, and that becomes problematic.
Have they acknowledged, Michael, cougars living in Texas?
Yes, but
But
The way the Texas Parks and Wildlife puts it is the only accepted breeding population of cougars is out in far west Texas in the Big Bend territory, the Trans-Pecos area of Texas. Other sightings in other parts of the state are considered to be kind of wanderers, transient cats, and not permanent residents for the most part. They're starting to hedge their bets a little bit. More and more people are seeing them in Central Texas in what we call the hill country. But I've seen one personally in the Sam Houston National Forest of East Texas. It's 90 minutes outside of Houston, for Pete's sakes. I mean, and I saw it with my own eyes across the road right in front of me. So,
well, I was going to interrupt, but me and my camera guy had a black jaguar. That's what it looked like. Completely melanistic jaguar run right in front of my production van, 3 a.m, and it ran across the road quick. But it was jet black and had the long rope tail, pretty big head. I couldn't imagine anything I could have misidentified it for.
Yeah. Where would that?
Right here, Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that gets into another theory about what these things are. Is are they black mountain lions? Can cougars be melanistic or black? And science will tell you no. And all the evidence, you have to admit the evidence would indicate that that's probably the right answer. A lot of mountain lions have been in captivity and studied for a long, long time. And you would think if those genetics were in there, that sooner or later one would have, popped out a little black cub,
Well,
and it just hasn't
outliers.
happened. Yeah, you would think, but it just hasn't happened.
I know it has not been proven.
What's interesting?
Did you see that picture of the piebald bear, black bear? That's like got white and looks like a Guernsey cow.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it was posted on Facebook, and I talked to John Pickering, who lives up near the Quinault Indian Reservation where it was taken, and he claims, it's taken from video and it's authentic. But I've seen a piebald
donkey, feral donkey out in the woods.
Yeah,
I've seen
deer
like that. I've not seen a bear.
No,
but
there's never been one.
Not that I'm aware of. No, but there you go. But the thing about the melanism, I saw one of the guys in the comments posted that bobcats can be melanistic, which is absolutely true. Those cats around the world that exhibit melanism, they're all either spotted or striped. And so you've got a mountain lion that it's this weird tweener, because adults, they're not monochromatic, that they're tawny colored on top, on their dorsal surfaces, but the ventral, the bellies and the chins, kind of like my chin, tend to be white, and the necks are white, and they're two-tone, they're two colors. But the cubs, when they're born, are spotted. And so they're these weird in-between kind of cats. They're not like bobcats, which have spots. They're not like, say, a serval or a leopard or a jaguar or something like that, or a tiger that has these black markings that, and there are reports of melanism in all of these species. Because an adult cougar doesn't have that, they thought, well, it just doesn't fit the mold. But those cubs do. And so I'm kind of like you, is way down deep, recessed in there somewhere, is that there? But it just hasn't occurred yet. And you sure would think it would have, all these years of having these mountain lions in captivity.
Yeah, well, that bear kind of shocked me, and I'm like, well, okay. I'm still not convinced it's authentic, but apparently they're going to get me the video, and then I'll determine. Yeah,
it's hard to say these days. It's
I know.
You just never know.
We're living in different times suddenly. Is it possible that there's some other South American cats, though, that are black, that are melanistic, that are coming up here and breeding too, that aren't quite jaguar size, but
it's a cat that's native to Texas as well, and a lot of people don't even know it exists. It's called a jaguarundi.
Yep. I was
It's
going to mention that. Yep.
it's kind of an odd looking cat. It's got kind of a small, flatter head, a long body. It's proportionally, it looks almost dachshund like in some ways. It looks longer than it should
Can you
be.
find a picture, Alex, of a jaguarundi?
Gigarundi.
Jaguarundi, just jaguar and put UNDI on the back, and it'll pop up. And they have these long tails that are almost as long as their body, and that fits the description of a lot of these reports. And they come in several color morphs. There's one's kind of a chestnut red, and then there is a gray or black morph.
Yep.
And
Is this
that's it. So now, as you can see,
cougar.
there, when you get up close, their head looks a lot like a domestic in a way, but they're kind of short-legged and they're long. A lot of people mistake them for otters when they see them at first.
see that.
But you see the long tail, and so it is a 20-pound jaguarundi. 25 pounds would be huge for the species, but if people see that, that's not a domestic house cat. They know it's not a regular just tabby cat, right? But they don't know what it is. And the other factor that comes in with a lot of reports about a lot of animals is, perspective. Where was the animal? Witness can tell you where they were.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you it was about this far away, but there's no point of reference. So are they off? Sometimes they think you're seeing a bigger cat at a greater distance, when in actuality they're seeing a smaller cat that's closer. Yeah. And that can factor into the whole confusing a jaguarundi for a black panther. And if there's low light conditions and you've got that dark morph color, I think that explains a lot of them.
Yeah, and you see it out in a field, and you don't always know.
Yeah, you just get you catch a glimpse of that long tail kind of.
But you do get a sense that this is a wild hunting cat, unlike a domestic house cat.
Yeah, absolutely. They know
house cats seem a little bit awkward the way they hunt. They're just
what's awkward. Interesting about that's yet another theory that I think is a piece of the whole Black Panther puzzle is. Ferals, a generation or two or three in the wild, and a lot of people have kind of a mistaken idea what a feral cat is. They think it's just somebody's house cat that got loose and is now running around outside. A feral cat is the first generation offspring of a domestic that maybe got out. Yeah. But it in itself is a totally wild animal. It has never had contact with people. It's never lived with people. It's a wild animal, and you get several generations down. And in the book, for example, in Australia, there have been several documented cases of feral cats, and they are catus. In other words, they are domestic cats that are just feral, but they're growing to the size of small leopards. You're talking 45, 50, 60 pounds. It's not common, but there have been several. There's one called the Gippsland panther that's 6 foot, was shot and killed with 6 foot nose to tail, tip of tail.
It was domestic.
But it came back, the DNA came back as catus, which is domestic cat, but it's a feral. And so
could it be a mixed breed in like?
Well, that's the great question. As far as hybridization, my understanding is if the size differential between the species is not such that it makes the coupling impossible, then cats are all close enough where they could couple and produce viable offspring. You hear a lot about cats and bobcats, for example, mating. Now,
I owned a cross breed for quite a long time of a domestic cat and a bobcat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a friend that lives in Silsbee in East Texas. She's got a cross, and she named him Tom Bob. He's half tomcat and half bobcat, and he lives in the house. But when you see that cat, he's got the short tail. He's got the longer back legs. I mean, that's a bobcat. I mean, you can tell. There's no doubt about it. So it can happen. Now, with larger cats, I would think a jaguar would be a lot more likely to eat a feral cat than to try to mate.
You never
with it or
know.
whatever.
But
You don't know.
Mood.
You never know. You get lonely, anything can happen, I guess.
Yeah,
But so it's a possibility. It's a possibility. But if they're growing large like that in Australia, there's really no reason, because we got a huge feral cat problem in this country. Every town has a dog catcher. No one is going around and picking these cats up. And if there's no natural predator to keep them in check, there's really no reason for them not to start growing larger and becoming a more formidable predator. So, not common, but it could happen.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I'm going to come to the conclusion, because of my romantic nature, that all these sightings are from black jaguars that are making a comeback.
I hope that's right. I think, and a lot of people get upset because they think it's like an undiscovered species, right? That we haven't found, and who knows? Maybe it could be, but I think the most likely explanation is something that was native that's reclaiming some territory, where it used to live. Melanism is dominant, and people aren't used to seeing them. And
look at the food base for these animals.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
huge
there are more deer in North America today than there were when George Washington was president.
I know, and of course you have the wild boars too.
Mm-hmm. And they're another great example of the feral. I mean, they're the descendants of domestic pigs, and they've grown to astronomical sizes at times now that they're feral. So
it's a good time to be a jaguar in Texas.
Yeah.
And everywhere, actually.
Absolutely.
I mean, everywhere. Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Well, let's switch this topic to Bigfoot. Yes. If something comes to mind, bring it up about cats, because I'm fascinated with this because of my own sighting. It's just, when you see one with your own eyes, it's like, whoa.
Well, they say the man with a theory is always the slave to the man with an experience. And you've got an experience now. You're a knower, not a believer, So it's there's a legitimate mystery going on here.
Oh, yeah. And I saw it in my headlights and, close range. I know it was not a cougar. I've seen cougars, and there's no way this was a cougar. The head wasn't right. The speed that it moved was strange. I mean, it just seemed this thing really was on a mission. It was crazy. But cougars just, they lope a bit, when they run. This thing had no lope to it. It meant business, man. It was in pursuit of something. And it was fascinating. Who knows? Okay, let's switch. You are the guy to talk to about Bigfoot, Area X, which is in Oklahoma, correct?
Correct.
I know it's a secret location. We don't want to give too much away. I am planning on getting Kathy and Bob Strain. And I got to get them on soon here. Alex is going to contact them, but
they're excited to come on.
Oh, good.
They're amazing. Yeah, that'll be a great show. They're incredible.
But let's. So first off, why this area? Can you tell me the most haunting or really interesting experience somebody's had in Area X?
Well, I'll tell you my personal the thing that rattled my cage the most, when it was not a visual, it was all auditory. It was let me check my notes here, make sure I give you the right date. It was 2019, and what we call Operation Variance. We always name each summer operation.
All right.
And there were 4 of us on site at the time, and what we do is we try to have a team in this particular location. For this summer, for example, we're going to have teams of between 2 and 4 people in this location for 17 consecutive weeks. It's already started. Our first 2 or 3 teams have already been in there, and so we were one of the teams going in. And it was well after dark. And what we do is at night we do what we call overwatch. And so basically, there's 1 or 2 people that stay up two people are sleeping, and then you switch off later. We're trying to keep an eye out. And so a fellow board member named Tony Schmidt and we were sitting out in front of our little hunting cabin that we have there. And we're sitting by the fire ring, which we don't typically use. We run cold camps. We feel like it. If there's one around and they're curious about us, without that ambient light of the fire, they're going to have to creep in just a little closer than they normally would if they really want to get a look at us, and that gives us a better chance of catching them.
I've never heard the
on the
term
thermal.
cold camp, so that's okay.
Mhm.
Keep going.
Yeah. So anyway, to kind of give you the layout, it's kind of important to understand that we have a small hunting cabin that's right at the base of a mountain. Now, the mountain is not like a sheer cliff straight up and down. It's more of a slope. It's fairly steep, but it's a slope. So cabin is several yards off of where that slope meets the valley floor. And then next to the cabin, we have, it's basically a metal carport type structure. We call it the hooch, and it's somewhere we just have, it rains so much there. We need a place to store some things where it won't get rained on, where they'll stay dry. And it's open on three sides, but on the fourth side, the side that's closest to the hill, to the mountain slope, it's got an aluminum wall that comes all the way down to the ground. So open on three sides. One side has the wall, the side closest to the hill. Now we're directly in front of the cabin, and so it kind of making a triangle between our location, the cabin, and the hooch. And we're sitting there visiting, and out of nowhere, we'd had no indication anything was around. All of a sudden, in the area kind of between the cabin and the hooch, there's this area that's screened off by that wall that does come down to the ground. That's where it sounds like this thing is. Something is just, pardon my French, but beating the hell out of the ground with a big stump or club or stick or something. Just
Wow.
bam, 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 bam. And I struggle to impart the powerful nature of what was going on here. Something big and strong just
Could you feel the
pounding the
ground
ground.
vibrating?
I couldn't tell you. I don't think so, but we were so startled, you know, and it was far enough away we didn't. But this went on for about a minute, just repeatedly. And I don't know if you ever watch golf on TV, but you know the sound a club makes when it's cutting right before it hits the ball, when it's cutting through the wind, that sound is like whoosh, and then you hear it hit the ball. You would hear that whoosh sound, that whoosh, bam, whoosh, bam, whoosh, it was just cutting the air. It was swinging it so hard, you could hear it cutting the air a split second before it hit the ground.
Okay, that's insane.
Yeah, and I've never heard anything like that. I've been doing this for 2 decades, and I've never heard anything like that in the woods. Even as a kid, just running around playing in the woods, I'd never heard anything like that in the woods. So that went on about a minute. We just held our ground. We were scanning. We had handheld thermal units, and we were, you know, scanning, and we couldn't see anything. We couldn't see anything anywhere, and we kind of figured it must be in that little blind spot that we have where that wall comes down to the ground. It's just on the other side of the hooch. But we didn't move, and we said, let's sit tight. Let's see if it'll come a little closer where we can get a look at it. A few minutes later, it starts again, and this time it is closer. It sounds closer anyway. And it's the impression I got was this thing's mad. This is like intimidation behavior. This is trying to freak us out or scare. I mean, now I'm projecting onto it, right? I don't know what it was doing, but again, just bam, 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 over and over.
Okay, let me just stop you for 1 second. How big do you think the stick or the object was, or could it have been a rock? Do you think it was a log?
I don't know. It would, if it was any kind of wood, it would have to been very thick and hardy. Otherwise, you know, anything with smaller diameter at all. Even something I think 6 inches in diameter would have broken the way this thing was hitting the ground.
That's
And the ground in this area it's the rockiest place I've ever
well.
been. There's
Usually,
just
if you're
rocks
going to get the
everywhere.
whoosh sound, it's going to have to be long to get the
Right,
velocity.
right. So I don't think it was like just beating the ground with a rock, because you were hearing that. So it was something that had a little length to it. I have no idea what.
Unless it can move its arms that quick to get that whoosh.
Well,
Which
and
is
maybe,
possible,
but
I
if
guess.
it's beating the ground with its fist, then that's even scarier,
Jeez.
right? You
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
but it sounds closer. The rapidity of the ground strikes are speeding up. It's getting faster. It's bam, 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 bam. It's just getting faster and faster, and it sounds like it's just yards from us. It sounds like now from where we are that it is under that carport structure, that hooch structure. It doesn't sound like it's next to it on the backside anymore. It sounds like it is right under it,
Gosh.
maybe 20 feet from us.
Yeah.
So we're thinking it is under the hooch. It is right there, but we can't see anything with these thermals. So, but it's got to be right there. That's what we're thinking. As these thermals aren't working, it's right there. So we had our headlamps on and we hit our white light with our headlamps. Immediately the noise stops and there's nothing there. And we get up, we look on the backside, behind that aluminum wall that comes to the ground. We don't see anything. We scan the mountain slopes with lights and with the thermals. We just can't see anything anywhere. Now the foliage is amazingly thick. So if something was burrowed up in the thick stuff, there's a good chance you wouldn't see it even with the thermal, unless you just had the perfect angle on it. But we didn't see anything. So we said, okay, we turned our lights off. Now, what we discovered a long time ago was that these thermal units can see through black trash bags type plastic, right?
Yep.
So we had constructed these panels that hung down off the porch of the cabin. So you had these panels hanging down where anything from the outside looking at the cabin could not see onto the porch, couldn't tell if anybody was there or not, but we could see out using the thermals looking through that black plastic. So we made a big show out of let's try to make it think that it scared us, and we went inside and we closed the door. So we go in, we knock around for a minute, open the door, knock around inside for a minute, then we close the door, and then we quietly sit down on the porch, hoping that whatever this is thinks we've gone in. Maybe that will embolden it to come out of whatever cover it's in and show itself where we can see it. It was just a few minutes and we hear it again. And I'm on the porch. I'm on the side of the porch closest to the hooch, where I've got a great view of that blind spot from where we were before. And it sounds like it is feet, like it could reach out and grab me. I mean, that's how close it sounded. And you could, I'm not saying that you could feel the ground strike, but you could kind of feel the reverberation of the ground strikes in your chest. You hear people talk about the growling, you can feel it in your chest. Yeah. This wasn't a growl, but you could feel that kind of reverberation in your body.
Did you feel infrasound at any one point?
No, I never heard. Well, I mean, I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, but we're hearing this thing again. It's even faster and more powerful. It's hitting the ground harder than it has before, hitting it faster than it was before. So bam, 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 bam. And then suddenly it's like whatever it had, it either struck the wall of that hooch, right? Or threw something and hit the wall of the hooch. And that structure rang like a bell. It just reverberated for minutes afterwards. You could hear that metal humming, right?
What time is it now? When that?
Oh, this is probably, oh gosh. I'm wanting to say this is around 1 or 1:30 in the morning. Now don't, that may not be right. It's getting late. Yeah. We had been up talking for a long time. And like I said, we'd had no indication, anyone or anything, was around. And so when it hit the side of that structure with whatever it was. We busted off that porch with lights and the thermals, and we're looking at, again, nothing. We can't see anything. So the only explanation I have for it is it must have been up the slope a little bit. It wasn't as close as it sounded, which makes even the fact that we could hear it so clearly and it was getting strong makes it even more intimidating in a way if it was a little further away.
That was the end of the activity, correct?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
it's what I call the grand finale.
Yeah,
they'll seem to do the big baka boom, and then they run and they leave.
Yeah. So maybe there were more than one individual. There was more than one individual there. Explains the different locations possibly. I don't know, but it is the creepiest, weirdest. It's much weirder than seeing something.
Yeah.
It's just like all the good horror movies, right? They don't show the monster for a really long time. They let your imagination run wild for a long time. And that's kind of the feeling you had. You knew something big and powerful was very close, but you couldn't see it. You had no idea where it was.
That's, when you said it's kind of like a horror movie, I mean, that's a great way to describe it. The adrenaline that you feel is it's overwhelming.
Yeah, there wasn't much sleep that
No,
night.
and you're just kind of like, you want to see, but then if you're anything like me, you almost in a way don't want to.
Well, you do, but you don't. I mean, in the lack of sleep, and honestly, we were more puzzled initially than we were frightened. We were like, we just could not understand why we can't see this thing.
Yeah.
We just couldn't understand it. Later, you ponder on it for a while and you realize how weird this experience really was. And it's unlike anything that's happened. We've been in this area X for a long, long time. And it's unlike anything that's happened to anybody else in there. And it was just really bizarre and strange. And so the longer you thought about it, the more it kind of, you get that little mind worm going and the more it kind of creeps you out. Just can't imagine how can we not see this thing?
Yeah. So, did anything else happen that particular weekend or week?
That same week, one of the guys had a visual. There was an area I wanted to check out that historically has been good, produced activity, and the plan we came up with was there's a dry creek bed that runs through this area. It runs along an old, I think it's actually the remnants of an old wagon trail. I don't even think it's not an ATV trail or anything. I think it's the remnants of an old wagon trail. And anyway, this trail, for lack of a better term, dips down and then comes up the other side, and you keep going. But this creek bed that it crosses is dry, except during times of rain. It's not a live creek that runs all the time. And so two of the guys were going to gilly up and conceal themselves somewhere along that trail. We weren't even going to know where they were exactly, because we didn't want to in any way, you think you won't be trying to see them or look for them or act weird. We didn't even want to know exactly where they were. But the plan was to let them go out an hour and a half before myself and another team member. And we were just going to act like the clueless hikers after they took position. And the hope was that we were just going to act really clueless camper hiker. We're talking, we're not trying to be quiet at all. We're hoping we get something's attention, and we hope that it will follow us, and that as whatever it is following us, it won't be aware of the other two guys who have concealed themselves.
So Michael, did the guys in the ghillie suits, did they have any like recording equipment, stuff to record?
This time, no. At this time, no.
Was there concerns that the Bigfoot would pick up on any kind of signal or pick up like the recording devices, or was there a reason to not include
No,
any tape?
I'll be honest with you. I don't know. We've gone and had trail cameras tested, for example, and to see if they're actually, why no trail cam pictures, right?
Yeah,
Why
right.
can't we do they hear them? Do they sense them somehow? Whatever.
Exactly.
So we actually had a lab test our trail cameras to see if there's some kind of noise, something in the mechanism that we can't hear with our ears, but it's on whether it's a different frequency or whatever,
Yeah.
that maybe they're picking up on. And this lab said, there wasn't. So I think the problem with trail cameras down there is that we have to put them in steel boxes and because of the bears. The bears just will find them and destroy them. And so they have to be in steel boxes, and then that increases the profile of the camera, and that makes them, even if you camo them up as best you can, they still, they kind of
stick out.
If I can see them, anything
exactly.
whose home is in that valley all the time, they're going to notice if something's different. And so I think that's the simplest explanation there. But
do you guys have electricity there at Area X?
No running water, no electricity. We've rigged up a little solar array to try to charge some batteries, and we'll bring a generator. We try not to run it very much, but when we have to charge some of the equipment up, we will. But anyway, so we're going to walk and hoping something follows us and walks in front of these other guys. And so we get to this creek crossing, and one of the other guys is standing in the middle of the creek, kind of scratching his head. And we said, "What are you doing? Why aren't you concealed? What's going on?" And he said, "I just saw something." He was concealed about 100 yards down the creek behind a lay down, a big log that had come down, big tree that had come down. And he had kind of shifted, his weight and taken his eyes off the crossing where we would be coming. And when he looked back, there was this upright black animal. And if you can kind of think about it, it was, the creek had eroded and was about 6 feet below the forest floor, the bottom of the creek. And this thing, he said it was kind of leaning into the bank with its hands up on the forest floor, the edge of the forest floor up there, just peeking down the trail. And what it was looking for us. It heard us. So our plan worked, but it didn't work in the way that we thought it was going to work. We thought something would follow us. Instead, this animal, it was already over there and heard us coming. And so it's one of those lessons, we weren't prepared to capitalize on something beating us to the spot, so to speak, if that makes sense. We thought that something would follow us. And so these guys were going to be on high alert after we walked by, after they saw us. And instead, this thing was there watching for us to come up the trail. And he shifted again and off it went, it was gone.
Crazy. I remember one thing that really intrigued me, and I'm not sure what you know about it, was the singing that was heard. I don't know if Kathy and Bob had heard it. Somebody had heard kind of a singing sound that was possibly from a Bigfoot. I'm not even sure if you're aware of that story.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of examples of that, and we do have some audio recordings of those. The first time it happened, we nicknamed it the Angel Choir. It was distant, but it was, this like 2-chord. I'm not going to try to repeat it. I've got the worst voice in North America, so I'm not going to embarrass myself on the show trying to make the song, the singing noise. But really bizarre, very, very strange, and not the kind of thing you would expect to hear in the woods. Now, what's interesting about the first time that happened is the night before, playing some kind of audio, trying to elicit a response of some kind from these animals. A lot of people have done that. You're familiar with the call blasting of various alleged Bigfoot calls and things. We've mixed it up, and we've tried all kinds of stuff. And the night before, one of the guys had broadcast loudly these Gregorian chants, like Middle Ages type monks chants, and it's all kinds of speculation that maybe they like that, maybe they were answering that, or were intrigued by that. We just don't know, and to be honest, we can't even tell you for sure.
Are you referring to like throat singing?
Not throat singing. Now, we've tried that too, and we've had several guys report hearing things that were similar to that. I know exactly what you're talking about. In this case, it was the like, I don't know how else to put it, these old Gregorian chants, songs that the monks would sing, and they were played loudly for a good while. And so we wondered, is this some kind of response to that? But we don't know. There's just no way to know.
One of the earlier times I was up at Snowgrove in the 90s, we were in the boat. I was with my best bud, my son, Josh, and we listened to singing for 20 minutes coming from the shore in an area there's no people. And it sounded very operatic almost, but in a different language. And it wasn't a ton of notes, but it was constantly changing notes. Sounded kind of celebratory, very female sounding. Literally, I think it had affected my son's life because he went into that and got his doctorate.
Yeah, it's really odd. It's very odd. And the tricky thing about audio is, unless somebody was watching the animal make this noise, you really can't say absolutely for sure what it is that's making it. But we've got a pretty good handle on what most of the known animals in North America can do. But you just never know. But it's stuff like that seems to happen a lot more. We've heard what we call faux speech, this samurai chatter you hear so much about. And I'll be honest with you. I heard the recordings that were made years ago with this samurai type chatter, and I'm just shoot perfectly straight with you. I thought it was the biggest bunch of nonsense I'd ever heard in my life. I thought, who could possibly think this is real? And then I had to eat those words because I've heard it myself. This weird, kind of. I haven't. It's the strangest thing. And I did not believe it, and obviously I'm a pretty open-minded guy, going into this field and talking about this topic so much, but I just didn't buy that at all. And I've had to completely go 180 on that.
Well, I've talked to many people that have heard, that kind of samurai kind of chatter. No one's recorded it. Has been lucky enough to catch it, but boy, I've sure heard a lot of witnesses describe it. Some of them that have described it had no idea of the Sierra sounds.
Right. They didn't know what it was.
No, they never heard of that. By the way, thank you, Jennifer, for the super chat sticker. Also, I was going to mention, if anybody has questions for Michael, put them in caps so we can notice them. And
I think Jennifer did ask one. I noticed she was asking about environmental DNA.
Oh, there we go.
And to this point, the answer is no. That is something we feel like the technology has gotten to that point now where we're going to attempt to do that.
It's getting better.
Yeah, we're putting together some kits to collect water samples, soil samples. We found a huge trackway last year, 2 individuals, and want to go back, maybe take some soil samples out of those tracks, possibly, things like that. But things have just now kind of advanced to that point where we feel like we would kind of know what we're doing, and it's accessible to just common people like ourselves. So yes,
Yeah.
we're going to try that. We're definitely trying to embrace the technology. We haven't yet, but that is hopefully in the very near future.
Yeah, I mean that environmental DNA is going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and better and
Mhm.
better and better. It's going to solve a ton of mysteries, and it's going to create more questions probably. You know, God knows what's going to come out of environmental DNA in the next 10 years.
There's no telling.
Yeah, there's no telling. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Do you feel that the activity has increased at Area X because these things have gotten a curiosity about you guys, or do you think it's decreased a little bit?
It has decreased from the peak years. Our first 5 years in there, it was absolutely insane. Now there would be weeks where absolutely nothing happened, of course, but then there'd be a team coming there for a week where they would come out of there. They couldn't even put a sentence together. They were so sleep deprived because of all the rock throws, all the banging on the cabin, hand slaps, screaming, things running around the cabin, just all the activity. And it has slowed some from those first 5 years. Now, is that, why is that? I think obviously they're very intelligent. As we learn more about them, they're also learning about us, I believe. And they're not quite as susceptible to some of our ruses and tricks trying to, they're not responding to like call blasting, for example. They just don't. They just don't. There have been scenarios that took place. We had one good example. We had a guy that was leaving the area and his truck broke down. I think he got a flat tire and he had to walk back to camp. And when he was walking back to camp, something was shadowing him in the woods and he was just scared him to death, And so several different times we tried to kind of recreate that scenario. We'll plant guys along the road, conceal them, wait an hour or two, and then drive up the road. Somebody drives up the road and then they kill the truck and they get out and they pop the hood and they tinker, acting like there's a problem, and then walk back to camp, hoping again that whatever shadowed this guy that one time that would repeat itself, and we'd have guys in position to get a look. But it just hasn't happened. They just don't seem. They make mistakes, like the guy in the creek. He was vulnerable. He was there, but they don't seem to make the same mistake twice. It's like a handful of mistakes per summer, and to capitalize on that it's just got to be the perfect storm.
Don't you find the weirdest behavior, Michael, is the cabin slapping and the rock throwing at the cabin? It's so bizarre. Because you kind of look at it as an intimidation thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to intimidate you without any confrontation. But then on the other hand, you're like,
Doug, it's if you look at the known great apes, they do this stuff. They shake vegetation, they shake trees, they throw sticks, they throw rocks, they yell, they roar, they beat their chest, they run up, and they'll, slap at you. And then as they sprint by, they don't really want a real confrontation, but they're trying to run you out of there. And whether it's orangutans or gorillas or chimps or bonobos or whatever.
Or is it possibly they're just showing off?
Well, yeah, kind of getting to that is the thing about these animals. They don't display any kind of behavior that you don't see in the known great apes. What's interesting is they're not like any one of them. They're this weird amalgamation of all of them. These intimidation displays and things. They whistle. As far as we know, there have been a handful of documented cases where orangutans have been recorded and seen whistling. We don't think gorillas can do it. We don't think chimps have done it. And but orangutans have. We hear whistling out there, this weird monotone single, whistle, doesn't vary in tone or anything like that. They throw stuff. That's more of a chimp thing. They shake vegetation and roar, and that's more of a gorilla thing. And down the line, it's all kind of classic great ape territorial or intimidation displays, but it's a combination of all of them.
The rocks that have hit the cabin, are they about 2-inch, 1.5-inch size?
They vary. We've had some as big as volleyballs fly into camp, which is kind of scary. And then the usual.
But did those rocks hit anything? The big giant ones?
Just
ground.
Just the ground. Now some of them.
I'm talking about the ones that have hit the cabin. Specifically, the ones that have hit the cabin.
They're mostly what you would be a good throwing size rock, baseball size, softball size, and smaller from there on down. That's mostly what we also have had these weird, we call it the rain of rocks. We recorded one time. It's just this constant barrage of sounds like pea gravel. Something's just tossing up pea gravel up onto the roof of the cabin. It sounds almost like rain. It's just shower of really tiny stuff. But and we went out to see him. He's had a squirrel up in a tree. He's loosening stuff that's fallen down, and we found all this gravel-sized, rock stuff on the roof. It's really bizarre.
Did you get the sense in most cases that there's more than one animal?
Yes.
Surrounding the cabin or near the cabin at one
time?
I
don't know about surrounding. That sounds real scary and and intimidating. I think. And I can't speak to populations across, the continent, but at least in our study area, what we have found is these are not the solitary animals that I think a lot of people in the early days thought they were. You may only see one, but what we've learned is there's usually another one very close by, and they may be within vocal range. Maybe they're foraging and they're not right next to each other, but they're within earshot of one another. And we've everybody's kind of familiar with the trick the mama bird will play with the snake's trying to get the eggs in the nest. She flops around on the ground pretending she's got a broken wing, right, and trying to divert the snake away from the nest where the babies or the eggs are. And there've been several times where we felt like we something had moved, something had made a noise. We went after it, and then something back behind us starts screaming or throwing rocks and banging on a tree or something like that. And in the early days, we would stop and then we'd go chase it, and we've kind of learned now, we believe it's kind of that distraction behavior. And it's trying to get us, we're getting too close to its friend or family member, or whatever the case may be. And so now we don't divert, we stay, on the one we're after. Now, the results have been the same so far. We've caught glimpses of animals throughout the years, but it's just so fleeting. The windows and the vegetation and the lanes where you can actually see something for a distance are so limited in there. Really, the creek beds only. That's really the only place where you have really a long field of view.
Interesting. Do you have kind of a new tactic for the upcoming year here? Is this something new?
Well, like I said, we're hoping to get into the environmental DNA a little bit. We're hoping to do that. Personally, what I want to do is we have some nano tags. I want to redeploy those. I don't know if you're familiar with that experiment that we tried.
Yeah, I remember the burr story.
Yeah,
with the, nano tag.
Yeah. We have these little nano trackers. They're just little transmitters, and we disguised them. They were tiny, real small little transmitters, and they're meant for amphibians, reptiles, turtles, that kind of thing. We want them to be small and as unobtrusive as possible. And we took a cockle burr, which anybody in the South knows what that is. It's just like this little tiny sea urchin looking seed pod. if you've got dogs or horses, they're the bane of your existence. You know, they get in their fur or tail or mane or whatever, and you just can't hardly get them out. But we basically cut one of those pretty good sized one in half and hollowed it out. And we put the transmitter in that. There is a bit of a tail on it. That's the antenna. And we strung these up on what we call string traps. And what that is just a piece of black industrial thread strung between two trees. One end is tied, the other end is wrapped, so that when something walks through it, it's all but invisible in the woods. It just looks like, if you see it at all, you just think it's a spider web. If you've ever walked through the woods in the summer down here in the South, you just get webs all over you. And when something walks through it, that string on the one side unwinds, and that thread would stretch out, and it gives you a direction of travel, whatever it was that went through there. And so we strung this thing up about 7 feet high. And it looks very organic, natural, like it's just leaf litter or something that's fallen into the spider web. And we had about a dozen of these tags, and something walked through this trap, and the tag was gone, and it was activated, and it took us months before we could reacquire the signal. It was in August when the tag was activated, and we didn't get a signal on it until December. And it was 3 mountains over from where it was taken. And what had to happen for us to find it is we had to get an antenna, an omnidirectional antenna, and put it on a plane. We got several pilots in the group.
Yeah, I've done that with bears.
Yeah, they just had to do the figure 8 pattern around the whole mountain range, and they started getting hits. And it was, 3 mountains over from where
That
the tag was
far.
deployed.
Wow.
And so we ended up with, I think we got 25, 26 total hits. And that's kind of on the low end for what's acceptable to compute a home range. You'd ideally like to have more data points than that, but it is considered acceptable. It's on the low end, but it is considered acceptable. And we came up with these home range estimates, and they varied from, from about 18, 19 square miles up to about 72 square miles, depending on the method that was used. And what's interesting is what most people feel like we tagged was probably a black bear. That's the most common animal people refer to in the Ouachitas that probably, this tag adhered to. But it was 7 feet high, which that would be a mammoth black bear.
Yeah.
And even if it could reach it, it would be pawing at it. It would be reaching up, pawing at it. And we just don't think this tag would have adhered to a paw. And if it did, the bear's going to, bite it off. But anyway, like I said, it was several months before we could get a signal. It was December through February when the planes were up and getting these contact points. And of course, the black bear population in the Ouachitas is in hibernation torpor during that time. Bears, it's a myth that they just stay totally asleep for months and months at a time. They do get up and roam around a little bit, but they don't go miles and miles and miles away from their dens. And this thing, like I said, was 3 mountains over from where the tag was activated. So,
It's quite a ways.
and the movement we got on it stayed active all winter, December through February. The dead of winter, it was on the move continuously, moved fast. We had ground teams that we'd get the points from the pilots, and we would try to rush to that area and try to lay eyes on it. And we had this antenna. Everybody that grew up watching Wild Kingdom, you've seen this. When they've got the antenna and the
Yagi antenna.
The Yagi antenna, and it's beeping and it vibrates. The receiver vibrates when you're really close. We got guys we believe within 100 meters, but it would just retreat into the nastiest, gnarliest, stuff. And then we would lose it because that technology is line of sight. So if it ducks down into a ravine and we're still at the forest floor level, we're scanning over the top of it. We lose the signal. That's
so you did have this thing, whatever it was, retreating.
Yeah.
from you. That's
And we,
really
honestly, we got to the point where we were hoping it would discard the tag because we felt like for sure there'd be hair on it. For sure there'd be some DNA evidence that we could extract from that. But the tag, they've got a life of about 300 to 350 days once they're activated. And we were never able to get to it, or this animal never shed it because it was continually moving. You know, we'd hope we'd get multiple hits from the exact same spot, and then that would kind of tell us, you know, that it has shed the tag, but it never did. And so, you know, it was really an interesting, you know, the home range is bigger than anything in the Ouachitas that's supposed to be there. A boar black bear has a home range of about 22 square miles. This thing moved around more than that. Plus, it's moving in winter when bears are asleep. And the only thing that comes close as far as an animal that naturally occurs is a mountain lion. But according to the Oklahoma wildlife people, you know, they don't have mountain lions in Oklahoma, which I don't believe. But that's the only thing would have a range as big as whatever this thing was. So we're pretty confident when you add all the, you know, all the factors together in context, strung up 7 feet high, miles and miles away from where the tag was activated, active during the winter, huge range. It just doesn't,
you know, it's
fit.
just so hard to believe that a sticker, which that's what we call them, a burr. A burr would stay on a damn animal.
Well, you know, we kind of cheated. We had this burr, and they'll get in their tangle. But what we were afraid of is these animals, you know, the known great apes groom one another. We thought,
Yeah,
and
they
we
pick
thought
it
that,
off.
and that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because, like I said, they're bound to be hair and stuff on it. But we also coated them with rat trap glue. And this is the kind of gooey stuff like on these mouse traps. They get stuck. They don't, you know, it stays good in the weather for many weeks at a time. And so we kind of cheated and we threw some of that stuff on there. So whatever it was on him. I mean, it was on him.
That stuff's not coming off.
Yeah, you know, so
well, even so, it must have been. I mean, you know, I'm just kind of doing brain diarrhea, but it must have been a male, a lone male, because you would think if it was in a family group, it would have been picked off.
Yeah, and it got to the point, really, that's what we were hoping for, like I said, because, you know, if that thing's just laying still, we can find it, right? We can track it down.
But the point was, it was on an animal for that long.
It was, yes.
Yeah,
and for all I know, it still is. It's just
or what if it was carrying it? Might have just been carrying it, just screwing with you guys.
Yeah, but you know, and we published we wrote a paper on it, just called the Tag 7 paper. It's on the NAWAC website. It's fascinating. It got we couldn't get it published, and the reasoning was so circuitous. It was you know, it just would enrage you. You know, it's like, well, you know, there's no such thing as Bigfoot, so your evidence can't be valid. There's no evidence for it, so it can't be real. He said, well, we think we've got some pretty compelling evidence right here. And they said, well, your evidence can't be valid because Bigfoot's not real. So you fight this, you go in this circle, circuitous logic, you know, it's not real, therefore it can't leave evidence. Well, we think we've got evidence. Well, your evidence must be contaminated because there's no such thing, you know, and it's really frustrating trying to find somebody to do it. So we put it out on the site. It's out there for anybody that wants to check it out. But that was kind of the final straw for me. We had written something called the Ouachita Project Monograph before, and we had written this Tag 7 paper, and it just in my mind, this is incredible stuff, and no one's reading it. No one's getting this. It's not being disseminated anywhere, you know. And they were written more along the lines of a scholarly type work, trying to get the attention of wildlife scientists and or institutions or something along those lines. And I said, people need to know about this stuff. And that's when I decided, okay, this is the next book. You know, I'd written the Shadow Cats, the Black Panthers book, and was looking, you know, what's my next project. And I said, this should be my next project because this is amazing stuff and people should hear about this.
Why
And
don't you guys repeat the experiment?
well, that's what I'm hoping to do this summer. That's
Okay.
what I was getting at with, when you ask about, was there anything new this summer? It's not cheap. That equipment's not cheap. Those
No, it's not.
receivers and
Cheap.
transmitters are not cheap. So, and we're people who have regular jobs. There's not a millionaire among us that I'm aware of, and so we have a budget. It's based on the membership dues that we get every year, and we have to make a call on what to do with those limited amount of funds. So we do have some tags. We spent most of our funds this year on a pair of they're binoculars, but they're thermal and they can take video, and you just wouldn't believe the quality of the image on these things. So we're hoping that's a game changer for us as well.
Well, for 2024, you need to put a Sony A7 camera because it's so much better than thermal because it sees in total darkness in color. And it's just like there's it's the middle of the afternoon at midnight, even with no moon. That's what you guys need.
Well, I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, you need to save up. You guys need to raise your dues and save up about $4 or $5 grand. Yeah, I'm about to buy one here. I've been using one, been just borrowing it, but now I'm gonna buy one because it's just too impressive.
Yeah, I've seen some of the images. It's pretty crazy. It really is. It really is.
They have like an ISO of like 500,000, and so it just.
But this illustrates probably how come nobody has gotten the images? How come nobody has gotten proof? And it's here. This is the perfect situation. Okay, here are these tools that are out there. I can't go and buy that.
No, it's expensive.
And National Geographic or the Smithsonian or whoever who could, they're not, because they're not buying into the whole thing. And so you do what you can with what you got where you are, and you do the best you can. And that's what we're trying to do. And I just don't think people realize how difficult it really, really is. And it's maddening, but it's fascinating at the same time. And sooner or later it'll happen. Are
you going out there this year, Michael?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll be out there. Yes, sir.
I'm not.
I won't be in until July, so it's going to be pretty miserable.
Okay.
But
so is that like a 2 week or a 1 week?
That's for 1 week. So we're having teams of 2 to 3 go in for a week at a time. Now, some guys will sign up for multiple, weeks if they have the time off. But again, this is a situation where even if you have the days off, even if you have vacation that you can use, sometimes mama doesn't want dad using his vacation days out in the woods where she and the kids are staying at home. They want to go to the beach, or they want to do this. And so, real life is a factor in what makes this whole endeavor so difficult. People have lives, people have financial limitations. People have time, stage of life. My kids were grown and out of the house, so I have more time than somebody who's got young kids. And all those things, they conspire to make this whole endeavor more difficult than I think a lot of people suspect it is. And there just aren't that many people doing it. There just are not.
So what's in your book? People have brought up, Charles Smoke has brought up that we haven't touched on what's in the Valley of the Apes.
Okay. It's basically, it's written in 2 parts. I start kind of in the early days where we were, for lack of a better term, weekend warriors. We're kind of like everybody else. You had a Labor Day weekend, we'd go out because we had an extra day, right? And kind of how we felt our way along and learned as we went, some of the places we went, some of the experiences we had. That's the first part of the book. The second part, which really which really makes up 2/3 of the book, to be honest, is about our time in this area we call Area X, which is this really mysterious, creepy sounding X-Files kind of name. But the name, actually, we had 3 study areas years ago. We called them areas X, Y, and Z. And Y and Z kind of fizzled out, and that just left X. It just as easily could have been area A, B, and C. But X is the one that stayed. So, but it does, it does sound cool. So we like it. But and it details, it documents each summer operation since, if I'm not mistaken, going all the way back to 2005, and it goes through the 2020 operation, which was, like everything else, kind of got ruined by COVID and all that kind of stuff. So, but it details it all. The narrative comes straight out of the field notes of the guys who. That's one thing we do. We insist that everybody out there has a scribe. Every team has a scribe. The guy who's going to be responsible for taking all the field notes and compiling them. And so the source for that final 2/3 of the book is basically the field notes of the NAWAC with boots on the ground in Area X for all those years and all the weird and crazy stuff that has happened during that time. And so that's pretty much what it's about.
Well, what's the craziest thing that's happened to somebody else?
Oh, man. Well,
it's one of the more odd experiences.
Well, this happened while I was present too, so I'll share this one. The cabin that we're in now, it's not the original cabin that we stayed in those first few years. This thing was really dilapidated. It was, it just looked like it could fall down at any time. But there's something about having 4 walls around you when you're in a wilderness area like that provides a little security. And anyway, there were 3 of us, I believe, there at the time, and there was a front bedroom. There was a room in the front of the cabin, and it had an old bed in it. I was sleeping in the middle part of the cabin, and Daryl Collier, who you probably are familiar with, he was sleeping in. There were a pair of bunk beds, and they were next to a small window. I had seen the legend of Boggy Creek, so I wanted no part of a bed next to a small window. So I was in the middle of the room. But the gentleman that was in the front bedroom, there were windows on 2 sides, on 2 walls, and they were screened, but there was no glass. So there were like screens to keep out insects, but no glass. But the screens were in bad shape, and they were just barely kind of in there. And we're in there, kind of settling down for the night, and all of a sudden, from that front bedroom, we hear him, "Mike, Daryl, help! Something's touching!" And then you hear this commotion. And you hear something hit the wall. Now, whether that was him kicking out or whether that was something on the outside that hit the outside wall, I couldn't tell you. But if you recall earlier, I told you I'd heard this samurai chatter. Right before this commotion, all hell broke loose. I heard that. I heard it. What did it? And then everything goes crazy. And he told us something. He was sleeping on his side. He was facing away from one of these windows. And he said he felt a hand on his hip, and it started.
I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you later, Mike. Goodbye.
And it started to rock him, and that's when he called out and snapped to, and Kit was kicking, and the big commotion started. And of course, we all jumped up, and we looked around. We went out. We looked at the window, and the corner of the screen, it had been bent in and up. It's like something had put their arm through that bottom corner of the screen, and the screen.
So he's living Boggy Creek.
So he's living Boggy Creek. That's right. And then to cap it off, we had, we looked around. We couldn't see anything. We didn't hear anything, and we finally get calmed down. And he goes to use the bathroom. And of course, there's a small window right over the john there. So he's standing there using the bathroom. And as he looks out there, these two silver dollar sized glowing eyes are looking right back at him. And it's a good thing he was in the bathroom, because
Yeah, to use it.
I think it would have let go either way, but he was already in the middle of it. But so that was a pretty traumatizing experience for him. But he's still with us. He's a hardy guy, but he's still
To
with
me,
us.
I think that'd be the end of it. I mean, being touched.
I think it would have been for a lot of guys. I really do.
That's
And,
really scary. Because I talked to I think it was Bob Burns, one of the guys that was involved in like the original King Kong movie, and he said the scariest thing about Bigfoot is the fact it can grab you and drag you away and keep you a prisoner, keep you alive, and keep you there. So that's really the fear, that's deep inside all of us. That's
but certainly they're
Kidnapping.
capable. They're capable, but after all these years, I've now who knows? I mean, I think.
Well, the kidnapped ones can't talk though.
Well, you're right, but you talk of. I think of it kind of like sharks at the beach.
Yeah.
If every shark that had been in close proximity with somebody wading around or swimming at the beach bit a person, if that every time there was one nearby, they bit a person, people would have stopped going in the water eons ago, right? I feel kind of like that about these things. Certainly, they've had some prime opportunities. We've had guys charged. We've had we've had guys who heard something and turned and looked, and there's something one's walking away. It was literally 5 yards away, and they never saw it. Right. So these things, if they had wanted to do us harm, they've certainly had their opportunity. Now, I think you have to respect them as you would any big, powerful wild animal. And there may be a bad one in the bunch here and there that is, there was a mountain lion killed out in West Texas not too long ago that it tried to jump on a kid, and turned out it was really old. Its teeth were in terrible shape. It couldn't catch its normal prey anymore. And of course, we're easy pickings, right? And so, a situation develops like that with one of them, and they're opportunistic. And I'm not saying it could never happen or has never happened. The Native American lore is full of that kind of thing. And I you can't respect and buy into the Native American belief system about these animals existing and ignore that part of it. I don't think you can pick and choose what you like. I think these people were here. They knew what was in those woods. They knew what they were all about, and they, for the most part, chose to stay away from them. And some of them, some of the names for them, mean, cannibal giants and things like that. So those beliefs came from somewhere. So I think they're worthy of respect, but I think your typical camper going out to the national forest, you probably don't have anything to worry about. Plus,
no, I don't think so. But I've got a theory. It's just a dumb theory that they're very tactile. They like to touch different surfaces. He may have been touched because they wanted to feel the guy's clothing.
Yeah, and primates in general are intensely curious. And
look at we played that clip, Alex, with the toad and the monkeys, and they were just gently touching it. They wanted to feel it.
Just touching.
They weren't trying to kill it or eat it.
That's a great point.
They were just touching it. And so I think a great experiment would be I'll make it for you. Take a piece of, let's say, 2x2 plexiglass, leave part of it glossy, and machine. I can take my CNC and machine like 3 different textures. Like one could be squares machined in, one could be diamonds, and just leave it out in the woods just like that. Maybe put some of the hooked Velcro on the back, and just see if they leave you any fingerprints or if they're tempted to touch it.
Yeah, you and I talked about that, the residue that is often,
yeah.
left behind by hand and fingerprint evidence. And that is definitely
That's
something
significant.
that I think is worth trying. We've tried mirrors, and that kind of thing. But it's certainly worth trying again. And
Well, I think
again,
it would
with
be.
all
I
the
think it would be.
environmental stuff.
I think it would be cool to do that experiment, but to
Mhm.
make it very tempting with 3 different textures,
Mm-hmm.
including the gloss, which is, I think they're really curious about something high gloss, but black or blue, so it's not scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like acrylic.
It's certainly worth a shot. And I think you're right. I think
Well, they touch windows all the time. Why? Why
they're
do they touch
always touching stuff. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah, I think they're very tactical. I've got a nephew that's like that. He's got to feel every little thing in the house. He just doesn't want to hurt it. He just wants to touch it, just to see. So it's a kind of a natural thing in all of us, including primates. Just touch it, look at it. So
Yeah,
maybe if you
I
could
agree.
provide something that's got enough textures on it, put it out in the woods and just see what happens. Check on it once a month and see if
And that's something easy to do, and that's the kind of thing that you can have multiple experiments running at the same time, because once that's deployed, you don't really have to tend to it. You don't have to refresh batteries.
All right.
You don't have.
I'd be
You don't
willing
have
to provide that with to you
No,
if you want.
I would gladly take you up on it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because I can machine, 3 or 4 really tempting textures.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right there
I
within
guarantee you,
eyeshot.
we'd get them hung up out there. We sure would.
Yeah,
We absolutely would.
we'll have to try something. We'll talk.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions here? What time is it, Alex? We only have 3 minutes before we turn into a pumpkin, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alex is like, yeah. So, okay. Obviously, there's a lot more to cover, and
We should have you on again, Michael. If you
Well, I'd love to come back. This is, it's not something you get to talk about at work much.
I
So
know.
to really get to go in depth with people that know the subject and the topic, and people who are listening that are interested, it's a treat for me. So I'd be glad to come back anytime you guys would have me.
Fun just to even relaxing, just talk about different topics. I was on the phone with Jeff Meldrum today, and it's like, okay, I gotta go, and then we're back on another topic, and then a half hour later, okay, I gotta go, and then he'll bring up something, or I will, oh, one more thing, and you're on the phone for another half hour.
Yep.
So you have a number of websites. You have michaelmays.com.
Well, it's michaelcmays.com. That's just kind of it makes a difference. Otherwise you get this opera singer guy, so
Well, I found it. Just type in Michael Mays in.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well,
yeah,
but it's that's a
Michael
personal
C.
kind of author site. And then the Texas Cryptid Hunter blog, you can search that up, and that's the blog.
That's Facebook, or is that just a website?
Well, it's on Blogspot. It's just literally a blog site.
Okay.
And then the North American Wood Ape Conservancy's website is just woodape.org. And there's all kinds of good stuff, including that Tag 7 paper, the monograph I mentioned. And there's also this really cool, we've got an audio library that anybody can go in and click and listen to a lot of the audio that we've captured over the years. Some of it is really compelling, really strange. Really
Have you
cool.
worked with some of the audio guys like David Ellis?
Yeah, we have. We've had these autonomous recording units out there running 24/7. We've probably got 2 years of audio that we haven't listened to yet, because it just,
it's a lot of work.
it's very tedious. Now we're getting better. We've got some guys who are getting better at it, where they can identify anomalous stuff by looking at the spectrograph.
If you ever want compilations done, it doesn't mean it's going to hurt your original audio, but I'm happy to work with Adam, and we can put together, compilations for you to take a 30, 40-hour tape and, narrow it down to just the main sound.
Well, I'll tell you what, we may take you up on something like that, because we are, who knows what we've captured. And it's just, again, we're limited by we're a volunteer organization. You're limited by
Yeah.
the man hours that you've got.
Yeah.
And so going through audio is not fast. And
No, it's not.
and so we're way behind.
Well,
So we
real
may
time.
very well give you a call about that.
Well, it
That'd be
seems to
great.
work really good. We've done it in the past. It seems to pick out just the good, just the
Mhm.
highlights. And then you can at least skim through a 20-minute tape versus a 40-hour tape.
Well, that would be something that
does help. Yeah,
that
it
makes a
does
big
help.
difference. But yeah,
and
so
there's
we've got
ways to-
that, and we continue to record, and we're really focusing heavy on the video and the photographic evidence now, whereas initially we weren't. We've kind of pivoted toward that. And
Can you drive into Area X, or do you have to hike in?
if you got a 4-wheel drive on a nice day, you can get in there.
Okay.
If it rains, you may be stuck in there for 2 or 3 days until the creeks go down, that kind of
I
thing.
gotcha.
So
Wow.
it's not a place you find by accident. It's
Yeah.
which I think is part of why these
Yeah.
things are there.
Sure.
They're not going to be hanging out, behind the local liquor store or whatever. It's this is miles from the nearest paved road.
Yeah.
And I think it may very well be as remote a location as there is east of the Rockies.
Wow.
Some of the Everglades may, rival it as far as just isolation and things like that. But it's, I think most people don't realize that there are places like this still left in the middle of the continent, but there it is. So you want to see where Area X is? Find that satellite image of the Earth at night, where all the lights are, right? The North America, and you find the big black spot in Oklahoma, in eastern
There you go.
Oklahoma.
It's somewhere in there.
There it is. That's it.
Yep. Gotcha. Thank you, Charles. Well, we really
I'll
appreciate
see you
it.
there, Michael.
Yeah, I'm going to send Alex. I'm going to send him there with a roll of duct tape, and that's it. For a week.
You can do anything with duct tape. Maybe all you need.
Yeah. Just a roll of duct tape, Alex.
Give
in a
him a can.
swimsuit.
Give him a can
That's all I
WD.
need.
Give him a can WD-40, and he'll be set.
WD-40 and duct tape.
And duct tape. There you go. You can do almost anything.
And throw up his book cover, Alex. Photo 6. I gave you his big book cover.
Yeah.
All isolated, really nice. On the Valley of the Apes.
Yep.
It's a great title for a book.
Well, thank you. Valley of the Apes, and again, that's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere there's online books sold. You can buy it straight from Anomalist Books. If you want an autographed copy, go to one of those websites we mentioned earlier. You can contact me, and I'll ship it to you directly. But be glad to do that for you. But yeah, I would very much appreciate it. I got
Did you find it?
two daughters with college
Yeah, sorry,
loans, so
my computer's about to die here.
Did you find Photo
yeah.
6?
Yeah. 1 second.
We're actually in a storm. I'm looking at the lightning. I'm looking at my
Hey,
headphones.
there it is.
going,
Yeah, it's getting bad.
yeah, the
So-
weather's weird up here.
yeah. So there's the cover, and that
So what is
photograph.
that photo? Is that a photograph from up there?
I took that myself in 2005 in the kind of the bottoms of the Sam Houston National Forest.
And that could be a Bigfoot?
It's upright and it's big, and it was making
Ooh.
haste away from me. And of course, I was half a second too late. It got obscured by the tree. But
Well, I think it's a big squirrel.
well,
That's my
I've heard
opinion.
a lot of theories on it, and
Good job.
that's as logical as most of them I hear.
No, good job,
I
Michael.
think
If
it's a
that's a
Bigfoot.
photo, that's great.
It's a great photo.
That's a big deal. That's a super big deal. It's just too bad it's obscured by all the brush.
Yeah, it's kind of like all these trail camera pictures of these cats too. It seems like we
Yeah.
always get the butt end, we never get the head, and
Yeah.
they're just, the trigger speed is just that slow. The story on this, I was actually standing down. We're down in the marshy bottoms. My brother and I were camping, and we thought we'd heard some hogs down there, And so we wanted to go down there and get a look at them. And we paused. It was just sweat pouring off of us. It was August in Southeast Texas. And I heard something, and looking over his shoulder, I just got a flash of movement. I couldn't have told you what it was, just caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. And I had a small 35 millimeter film camera, not even digital, and just picked it up, hit the button, and then looked. I never saw that with my own eyes. That was taken right over my brother's shoulder. And this was in the days where you had to go get your film, drop it off at Walgreens or somewhere. And so for 2 weeks, I didn't know if I had anything or not, but that's what came back. So,
See, Alex, for punishment, can you put Joe Fox's chat? It's at the very bottom. We're going to punish you, Joe, for coming on so late. Shame on you, Joe. Anyhow, we're glad to see you in the audience and our live audience. So anyhow, thanks everybody for coming and giving up your evening, and hopefully everybody has a safe week. And thank you so much, Michael. It's great meeting you. I know we've chatted a little bit in chat.
We have, yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you all for having me.
Why don't you give me a call when you're off work and got nothing to do, and we'll just visit.
I'd be glad to do that.
We'll get you back on.
We sure will.
Thanks everybody.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night, Alex. Thanks much, Alex.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary love we got going on. I'll pick you up in my 59 Ford. We head on down the road until we get bored. Just you and me and the sun and the wind. If the rain should start falling, we'll head on home again. Everybody else can see we're